America, if you're watching on your computer, make sure you can get us on your local cable provider. Go to youtooamerica.com and enter your zip code to find out where you can find us locally. I'm Barry Nussbaum, filling in for Dr. Gina. Welcome back to America Trends. At the DNC, former Secretary of Defense and Director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, was literally booed by the crowd for saying we need to fight terrorism. What is wrong with the Democratic Party? Joining me now is the esteemed Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's a New York Times bestselling author of the book Defeating Jihad, and you can find him at thegorkabriefing.com. Welcome, Dr. Gorka.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Listen, before I ask you my zillion questions, your parents are from Hungary?
My parents escaped Hungary during the revolution of 1956. My father had been put in a communist prison for being pro-democracy and anti-communist, and he was liberated from that prison by the revolutionaries and then made it out to the West with his future wife and my future mother.
We're fellow Magyars. Both my parents are Hungarian.
Very happy to hear it. See ya.
A brother in arms. Let's talk about last night. Leon Panetta. He goes on stage. He's supposed to be the easy speaker to promote a strong American defense. He calls for fighting terrorism a good thing, and the DNC boos him. What the heck happened last night?
It's just more proof that the DNC and a large part of the American left is living in a fantasy land. If you listened to the Congress so far, to the convention, what did you hear? For the first 61 speakers of the Democratic convention, not one person mentioned terrorism, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or Jihad. The first 61 speakers. And then if you listen to the rest of the convention, you could really only conclude one thing. As far as the Democratic Party is concerned, there are only three threats to the United States. Number one, AR-15 rifles. Number two, global warming. Number three, Donald Trump. These are the national security threats to America.
I'm laughing because you're right, and I don't understand it. They're creating a narrative in a bubble world that's like a parallel universe. The longer common events shake the hell out of us at home, terrorism every single week inside of Western civilization, not to mention what's happening here, Dr. Gorka, on our homeland front. Do they truly believe at the DNC that all of America that's watching this convention is going to buy the narrative and dismiss current events? I mean, is that truly what they believe philosophically or strategically?
I think they believe they can get away with it because it works. The left is very capable because they've learned in the last 30, 40 years that it's not about facts, it's about emotion, it's about narrative. Because if it were about facts, then the DNC would have to admit that in the last 2 months, the jihadis outside of Iraq and Syria have been executing a terrorist attack every 84 hours. One attack every 84 hours. They'd have to admit that in the last 4 days, we've had a pregnant woman killed by a jihadi. We've had a suicide bomber try and get into a music event in Germany, and we've had a French priest beheaded in front of the altar of a Catholic church. That's the reality, but it's irrelevant. As the great Chris Plant, the radio talk show host here in Washington says, for the left, for the liberals, reality is optional. And they do, and they live in a bubble. They live in a Teflon-coated fantasy bubble.
So is it truly your belief, and it scares the hell out of me if you're going to say yes to this, that the news is not sinking in, that they just don't see the fact that it's accelerating?
Yeah, no, yes, absolutely. I think facts are irrelevant. It's all about narrative. It's about emotion. Trump is a spy for the Soviets, for Putin, for the Russians. Don't you get it? He's a pig. He's the threat. He's the AR-15 rifles fire themselves. They're the problem. There've never been more polar bears in human history than there are now. But global warming is the threat. It's not about facts. It's about emotions. And they know how to pluck those emotions. How, Goebbels was so right, Hitler's propaganda minister. If you repeat a lie as many times as you can, sooner or later, people will think it's true.
I agree. That was his great legacy for history, unfortunately. So let's talk politics. Hillary Clinton's the nominee as of now. If she wins, what do you believe her position on ISIS and Islamic fundamentalism and Islamic terrorism is going to be? Is it going to be more of the same of the last 8 years? Is she the third term of Obama's foreign policy, or is there going to be something different?
I think that's the best case scenario. I think just a continuation of current policies is the best we can hope for. We saw on the campaign trail she refused to talk about jihad. She refused to use the phrase radical Islam. After the Nice attack, she was desperate. She realized she was losing to Trump's law and order stance. So she used the phrase radical jihadism for the first time, as if there's a non-radical version of jihad. It would be a continuation of those same policies, the ignoring of reality. But what I really expect, and this is the worst case scenario, there is no Hillary Clinton policy for national security. The only thing Hillary Clinton cares about is Hillary Clinton. Just read Clinton Cash. Just watch the movie of Clinton Cash. Look at the last 7.5 years. Look at the 4 years she was Secretary of State. Everything she touched burst into flames. Whether it was the Russia reset, afterwards they invade the Ukraine. Whether it was the bombing of Libya, Gaddafi is killed and it turns the country into a hellhole. Whether it's the removal of our troops from Iraq in 2011. All of these things.
Dr. Gorka, I wish we had an hour. America, we'll leave it there for now. I want you to follow him. This man is a genius when it comes to understanding foreign policy and the defense of America.